Hi. The illustrated map of Disneyland has evolved over the last 70 years, and if you're like me, you use it on paper or on your phone to navigate Disneyland. And this is the image of Disneyland that you have in your mind. But there's another image of Disneyland, the real image, which has been captured by aerial photography. I sometimes think of this as satellite photography, but it's not. It's just from airplanes. And in this video, I'm going to show you a side-by-side to show you some of the differences between the two, between the idealized version in this illustrated map and reality, which is captured here on the right. The first thing I'm going to show you is Main Street, USA. So it's obviously very accurate to real life, except all these cute little stores and restaurants on Main Street are actually a bit deeper and have a plain white roof on them. The most interesting thing here is that there are two corridors behind the buildings. This one here on the left, and this one which has walls up on the right for moving people on either side of Main Street. And on the map, there's just a forest there, trees on both sides. And throughout this video, you'll see that that's a common theme, is that anywhere that there's trees, more than 3 trees next to each other, it's almost always like a roadway or a storage building in real life. All right, well, now that I've said that, I'll immediately break that rule. Because in Jungle Cruise, the illustrated map shows you the complete waterway winding through the forest. And on the satellite map, or the aerial photography, shows you that it is a continuous canopy of trees almost. You could just see a boat poking through here at the bottom. So there are way more trees here in real life than there are in this illustration. And my favorite bit of this is next. It's the Indiana Jones ride. So the entrance to Indiana Jones is here, and there's an exposed pathway that you walk on until you get to the temple. But in real life, the entrance is up here near Bengal Barbecue, which has this round-topped building. And the line for Indiana Jones is all the way through these trees, and then you enter a temple, and you're walking along a long pathway underground, and then you walk under the railroad tracks here and into this ride building here. So on the illustrated map, you are clear outside the railroad tracks when you're on the Indiana Jones ride, way out here. So that is the most mind-bending illusion of the whole map, I think, is that Indiana Jones is outside the railroad tracks all the way through this forest. You know, I don't know if this is like, I feel like this is like 400 feet or so. So that is stunning to me, and the biggest difference in these two maps. So next, I'll talk about Pirates of the Caribbean. So that is a building here that you go into. And again, actually this ride is half within the berm and half outside the berm. So there are 2 buildings here. This is the building at street level where you get into the boat and you go by the restaurant. And then somewhere around here, you go down a waterfall, which is this narrow pathway here into the second building, which is outside of the railroad tracks. And then most of the ride is in here, and then you click up and exit in over here, and then walk out into this alleyway in New Orleans Square. So all of that is hidden on the map, and New Orleans Square looks pretty huge and complex, but really it's only here in the aerial photography. I like this, how there is a train here and an illustration that's the same. So again, just through this little parkway here, you'll see the top of Haunted Mansion, which of course is right next to the railroad track. So you guessed it, the ride is actually in this giant building here outside of the railroad tracks. um, when I learned that one of the ride attractions in Haunted Mansion is the Pepper's Ghost Effect, which is the large ballroom where there's a bunch of dancing ghosts in a two-story diorama in front of you. And that effect uses a huge plate of glass that's like 25 feet tall and like 40 feet long or something. And it's, I don't know how they got it in the park. And when I imagine them getting it through the park, I always picture them like 25 guys carrying it through these walkways along the rivers of America and in through the front door or something. But of course, that's not what happened. They brought it in a truck the back way and just walked it in this warehouse as it was being built. and and that's how they got it in the building, the easy way. All right, so next is Splash Mountain is further up the walkway here, and you can see the top of it here. It's portrayed as a mountain here, which takes place here, and then on the satellite map you can see this structure here, which I'm sure is half the ride. The dark part of the ride is indoors and in this air-conditioned building here. The train goes through the mountain here, and then the next ride is Winnie the Pooh. So this is a store here, Pooh Corner, I believe, and then I believe that the Winnie the Pooh ride is contained within this building here. So here's Hungry Bear Restaurant, and Pooh is behind it completely. All right, now on these aerial photography, or these aerial photos, Galaxy's Edge wasn't done being built when these photos came out, so it doesn't match the map in the photos, but you should be able to see that the railroad just has a thin layer of trees on either side, or on one side, and that blocks your view when you're on the train of Galaxy's Edge. And it blocks the view of the train from Galaxy's Edge also, because the train doesn't belong in on another planet. Up here you can see at the top corner the Millennium Falcon, and when this picture was taken, you could see that the ship wasn't there at all. So this dome is for Hangar 9 here, or sorry, no, it's for Smuggler's Run here. And that's the dome, but the ship isn't there yet. It's just a vast stretch of complex of buildings and everything. I'm going to show you one more thing, the mall under construction. This is, I guess I don't know what the name of the mall is here. There's a bunch of stores, and that would be here. So there is, it's mostly covered, but there are open, like huge opened spots for the sun. And all of this is for Rise of the Resistance. So it's just an absolute gigantic ride over here. And then there are some big double doors here, which open up here. It has a real roadway behind it. And then next I want to talk about Toontown. It has a nice organic shape here, and in reality it is squeezed into a rectangle. Toontown is a rectangle. The buildings are built straight out to the corner. So this would be Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin ride building here, and the roller coaster is here, and then this Toontown sign is right here. And I'm not sure what this building is. And there's a huge chunk of forest here separating the railroad from Toontown. And once again, here's Fantasyland Theater, and here's how big it is in real life. I should also take note that below Fairy Tale Theater there is a real life genuine road before you get to Casey Jr.'s train. which is portrayed here by these 25 trees here. There's a real road between here and over here. So this road goes under the railroad tracks. And you could tell that they put the railroad tracks into a tunnel here to hide the fact that you're going over a road. So not only did they have to build a road under the tracks, but they also had to hide that fact from passengers on the train. It's just some real nice sleight of hand here to hide this access road. So instead of going into Fantasyland, I'm going to continue over to Small World, which is the best example of the facade that hides the ride building behind it. So when you go to Small World, there really is a tall facade and just nothing behind it. It's on the edge of the map, but of course the ride building is gigantic behind that, where you spend 22 minutes going back and forth on this waterway, and then you come back out again. So that is the oldest ride that has the ride building outside of the berm. And so they kind of probably got the idea by doing that here and setting Small World on the edge of the park with quotation marks and having the ride building outside. So a little bit further east from that is this building. This is for the monorail. So monorails can come in here and park here. And it comes out here. So I forget what this is called, like a bypass rail or something, because the ride's over here. And then, once again, that's a Small World. And this is the parade route entrance that goes in here. And Autopia's in here also. It has a very complicated shape, which is well illustrated here. But I just love these intertwined rides, including the submarine ride, which is here. I don't have any idea what the other side of the submarine ride looks like. It could go in and do like a little loop. I assume that's all it is. It's a tiny loop of submarine right here. Because the submarines go in here and then it's just question marks. I have no idea. So here's the loading area for Autopia and that huge canopy of grandstands that covers you when you're waiting in line. And this is fairly accurate. This building is huge. And you never get behind it. The train goes behind it though. And it goes through this long rectangular building, which is where you encounter dinosaurs on the train. And this is outside the park right here to Space Mountain. So that's very accurate, I think, or well illustrated. And then the vast area between Space Mountain and Main Street, this huge green area, is of course a bunch of roads and picnic areas for the cast, and a whole bunch of parking. Looks like you could park 5 helicopters in here, so I'm not sure what happens here. And look at all these patio umbrellas for the cast members. And here is the cast member entrance for, which is right next to the entrance of Tomorrowland, and the bathrooms here. That goes back here. This one. And so then going north up north a little bit, this is the People Mover track that we never see anymore. And then Buzz Lightyear, this is the ride building, portrayed here in blue. That's just a much more interesting and attractive top than a snowy white building. And then here's Tomorrowland Terrace and Galactic Grill here. That's fairly accurate. So Star Tours and Star Trader are in here. So I assume that Star Trader is mostly in this rectangle here, and that Star Tours has 4 ride vehicles tucked in here, and that long line also. So I'm not sure where that ends, because there's a theater in here somewhere also. Tomorrowland Theater. And then Alien Pizza Planet would be here. Alright, that's enough of Tomorrowland. Here's the center circle. And then the castle. Castle's a little exaggerated here in its size. And then these ride buildings, there's 4 ride buildings here. Or sorry, 4 rides here, or more actually. And their roofs are gigantic and have access from behind. At least this one, there's access to loading from behind. And then here's the carousel here. And a little King Arthur's sword here. And Dumbo the Flying Elephant here with its associated circus tent buildings. That is next to Frontierland and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Let's take a look at that. So no ride building on this. I'm going to show you Matterhorn next. And because that's on an island, there's nowhere for a ride building to hide. It's really in the mountain. And here's, you might be surprised at how big the loading area is. This is one, has quite a distinct loading area and line structure, but that's all tucked away behind the mountain in this illustration. So you might not realize like how huge this is unless you look at the aerial maps, aerial photos. And then this area here has Idlewild Snacks tucked in here. And I think that's about it. I would like to tell you about this area, the Royal Theater, that has a little back entrance to Frontierland, but I don't know it very well. So that's what it looks like in the satellite view. There's a building here for the Mexican restaurant, Rancho de Zocalo. That's hidden in here. So that's the same access road that's behind these Fantasyland buildings here. And that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this tour of Disneyland. These aerial photography, the aerial photos of the park. Hopefully you had your mind blown at least a little bit as I pointed out the differences between the real life and the illustrated version, which you're used to. Thank you. Show me the front of the fist.